Thank you for joining me at the MPP Power Hour. I am your host, Massimo Palermo. Today I have with me as my guest, Tom Baldwin. Tom is an award-winning author. He is an Australian who dreamed of writing a novel when he was a young boy. Then, one fateful day, October 14th, 2018, he began writing. On that day, and 4 months later, he completed his first draft. After 20 more drafts, he had his first novel ready for release. The Magicium Series was born. Now, without further ado, I would like to welcome to my show Tom Baldwin. Hello, Tom. Welcome to the MPP Power Hour.
Hi, Massimo. Great to be here. Thank you very much for inviting me, having me on your show. It's wonderful to be here.
Great. Thank you for joining me. So I mentioned before you're award winning, and we'll discuss all that. Let's see. I believe you are the Literary Titan Gold Award. You won a Literary Titan Gold Award, correct?
I did, yes, for my first novel, for Discoveries. I won that late last year, and let me tell you, there were a few little parties here when that happened. It was really exciting, and to be frank, totally unexpected. It was a pretty neat story actually. My street team. I have a little street team who sort of try to get my name out there, and Michelle from my street team kind of put the book in, let me know, but I didn't think too much about it. And then suddenly she contacts me one day and says, "You'll never believe this." And yeah, sure enough, do you want me to show it? I can show it. It's
yeah. Yeah, so that's your current novel,
Buy
the first
me,
one,
buy
right?
me, buy me. Oh, subliminal message. You've got a book talking to you. What can we do?
So I want to show the original novel. Hopefully you can see that.
Hasn't come up at my end. There we are. There's
There
me
you
with
are.
a COVID beard.
There you go. And that's the original, but you modified it a little bit. So I'm going to stop sharing right now so the audience
I'll
can
put
see.
that back up.
Yeah, and you can want to share it. There it is, folks. That's the
Yep.
updated cover. His first novel, award-winning. So, Tom, why don't we get started? Tell the audience, basically, how did you get started in writing? Because you're
Look,
you won an award already, but you've only been writing a very short time. So
yeah, in some ways I have. In some ways I've been writing all my life. So I guess for me, a love of writing developed when I was about 6 years old. I remember writing a short story that these days it wouldn't be politically correct to do, but it was a Aboriginal or Indigenous Australian Dreamtime myth, and it was how the giraffe got its spots. And I just got such glowing endorsements and encouragement. My teacher put it up on the wall and all that sort of thing, and that was the first time I realised I was good potentially at anything. So it was, it's one of those moments that really sticks with you. And then when I was writing in high school, I always wrote much longer stories than the teachers wanted. Having been an English and drama teacher now myself, I understand now how frustrating that must have been for them. But yeah, I remember in year 10, I wrote this 56-page story that had to be like 2 or 3 pages long. My poor teacher, I'm really sorry, Mr. Gibson. I hope you can forgive me. I'm sure he's watching tonight, Massimo. And then I did some, I did creative writing at uni and all that sort of thing as part of my English teaching degree. But I guess I never really had that one idea that I thought, yes, this is an idea that's going to motivate and inspire people, and that there'll be a market for. And so it was, as you read out, October 14, 2018. I woke up one morning after a very vivid dream, and it was a concept, and the concept, I thought, you know what, that's got a little bit more going on than anything else I've come up with before. And so I sat down that day. It was a Saturday. I was living in the UK at the time. It was a Saturday, and I sat down that day and just started typing. At the end of that first session, I had 3,000 words down on the page, and I said, this is something. This could actually be something. And so over the next 4 months, I got around 200,000 words done in that time. So it was way too long for a first novel. And I remember the moment when I realized I wasn't just kidding myself was when my wife read it, because my wife's been always supportive, but has not been overly impressed by my writing in the past. And when she read this, she went, "This is actually really good." And the tone of surprise was a little bit heartbreaking, but she said,
She was not expecting something good from you,
"Yeah,
Tom.
that's right. This,
So you
this is
shocked
actually
her.
really good." And
Yeah.
yeah, and I did a lot of rewrites, as you said. I think you read out
Tom, I've lost you.
20. I think it's up to about 26. Lost me.
Sorry. Yeah. Your audio went out. Can you start again?
Am I back?
Yeah, you're back. I can hear you again.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so there were about 20. There were about 26 rewrites, I think I ended up getting up to, and then yes, this is out. This is the final version. I don't want to rewrite it again. I'm a bit of a perfectionist, so I'd like to, but yeah, I've actually got 4 more, so I'll just disruptions number 2, disciples number 3. They all want you to buy them, audience, if you're wondering. Number 4, disintegration, and number 5, dissidence. And I'm in the middle of number 6, which I have announced the title of, which is disasters. And hopefully I'm going to have a cover ready for that one in the next couple of weeks. And the first draft should be finished, I'm hoping, by the end of May. So yeah, lots going on. Always working hard at it to try to deliver the best stuff I can. And but I love it. I went to full-time writing in 2021. Started 2021. I gave up teaching. We moved back to Australia at that time. I gave up teaching, and I've been full-time writing since. And it's a wonderful job. Yeah. It's a wonderful thing to do.
Congratulations. So as a author as well, I totally understand what you're saying. Once you get that, I mean, just like me too. Like when I first started writing my book, it just hit me. I just like all decided I was determined. I was like ready. Okay, got to start writing. And I sat down and started writing. Yeah, the mood hit.
So what about your writing journey, Massimo? How did you get to start writing? What's your background in that?
Yeah, well, so yeah, it's a good question, Tom. My background is you said something. You were a teacher, right? English teacher, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, English and drama. Yeah, that's right. So language arts, I think you guys call it language arts.
No, we call it English.
Language called English? Oh, okay.
Yeah, there's separate subjects.
When I taught in Canada, they called it language arts, but yeah, maybe not in the US.
Yeah, we still call it English. We have English lit, English, all kinds of different titles. So anyway, so I was in my senior English class, and we had a writing project, and I wasn't what you call a straight A student. I was just getting by because that was my style. I'd rather have lunch or go to the phys ed, right? I mean, that was my favorite subjects, right? So anyway, so I was given this project, and I went ahead and I started writing. And before I knew it, my English teacher returned my paper and said, "Congratulations, I never give out such good grades," right? So I was like,
"Whoa!"
And then I looked, I saw a C. I go, "Well, that's as good as a grade?" No, you got an A, because I saw there were 2 grades. There was an A and a C. The C was for like what do you call it? The English, the way it was written.
The spelling, grammar, punctuation.
Yeah. The punctuation, all that. So that was a C. But the plot, the story was an A. I'm like, wow, awesome. That's like I didn't know I had it in me, right? So I got my first taste of writing then. But anyway, I didn't really start writing until after my first relationship, my first serious girlfriend. After that, I just decided I had time on my hands, and I just started. I started writing back in the early mid-90s, right? However, I didn't actually publish until 2021. So I didn't start writing. Yeah, so it took me 20 plus years to actually sit down and write, like I did in the summer of 2020. And I sat down, I started writing. And I finally sat down, I decided to write the whole story. And that's what I did.
Yeah.
It's kind of like you, it hit you one day, and I was determined to submit it and get it published. And sure enough,
and you can't stop yourself at that point, I find. Like, it's just this, it spins beyond your control. It's driving you. If you're wasting a minute of your spare time not thinking about writing your story, you feel like That's a bit
Yeah.
at God, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. It was literally every day I was writing something. It was like a chapter here
Yeah.
or a few sentences
Mm.
here. But no matter what, I was just in that zone. I guess of a writer's zone, if there's such a thing. I played sports, so we always had what we call the zone, right? You're in that
Yep. Yep.
zone. Yeah, I think I had that writer's zone at that point when I started writing, so I just couldn't stop. So yeah, so that's when I got started, and I do enjoy writing stories. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I mean, you sound very similar to how I got started. You just
Yeah.
hit me
Yeah.
one day.
Totally different genres, but yes, there are some
Right.
similarities out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
Desire for Love. That's your first book, isn't it? And
Yes. Yes.
yes,
As you
you
folks can
better
probably
shut
see
up.
right here, I got to show it, everybody. Yeah. So yes,
And
that's my first book. It's actually had some change as well. As far as the cover, the original cover was a silhouette, and then I changed the publishers, and we kind of changed it up a little bit. So yeah, so kind of like you, right? You changed your cover as well. So it's kind of
yeah.
funny how we're kind of like crossing the same paths in different
Yeah.
worlds.
It is, but every conversation we've had already has been brilliant. So
Yeah,
that's probably not surprising. There's
yeah.
connection there. I noticed in reading Desire for Love, Gianni, the
Mhm.
character, your protagonist. I was just wondering how much of you is in him because, like, just in getting to know you a little bit, I felt like
Yeah.
be a little
Maybe
bit
there's
of
something about
Massimo
it.
in there.
Yeah. It's funny you say that because a lot of people who I recommended or maybe I didn't tell right away that it was my story because Massimo Palermo is not my real name; it's my pen name. So,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I tell, hey, my friend wrote a book. Why don't you read it? Take a dab at it. They're like, hey, is that you? Are you Massimo? I was like, yeah, 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 yeah. So to answer your question, yes, Massimo Palermo, the my main character Gianni, excuse me, is a lot. I based it a lot on myself, especially overall the character, but especially early on in the book when he was in eighth grade on his way to high school, the shyness and the struggles and all that. That was very, very much me personally early on, right? But then as the story progressed, I kind of changed up the overall character as well.
Yeah, yeah.
So I mean, I did go from being a shy kid to a much more, hey, look, I'm podcasting today. I'm not so shy
That's
anymore,
right.
right? So
Yeah, yeah.
right, so yes, I totally my personality has definitely changed. It's definitely a lot more, a lot more talkative, a lot less shy, and I mean, it's stuff. People still say, hey, you're still kind of shy, but you can't get rid of it 100%, right? So
No, that's right.
yeah,
It's I find that it gives you energy to be what's natural for you, whether it's introverted or extroverted.
right,
But we all have both, I think, and
sure,
that's
sure.
yeah,
We
and
have
I
limits. We
think
have our
that's reflected.
borders. Yeah, we
Yeah,
have our borders.
yeah,
So yeah. So the story. So basically, I went around with some of my own personal experiences and my own characteristics and created a story. It's a fictional story. So I just want to make people know that it's not based off of his real life and everything.
no, no,
I did take some of my own some of the stuff, and I did make him and as an author you should know, you write fantasy. How much of your character? Let's go to your book. Let's talk about your
yeah,
book.
yeah. Well, that's a great question. I think every single one of my main characters has a little bit of me in it, like certain, and I don't think you can help that because you've got values that are so entrenched in you that you want to also communicate as the part of the deeper themes in your book, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
I think that to be able to do that, then the best way that comes through is in character. And so
Mm-hmm.
events has an impact on it as well, but character is important for communicating those thematic elements. And so for me, yeah, I would say all my characters have a little bit of me in it, but enough that's not me, just like you've said with Gianni, enough that's not me that people go, yeah, that's definitely not that guy.
Right,
So,
right,
yeah,
right. Yeah, I mean it's interesting because my characters are based off of not necessarily one person, but maybe a couple, two or three.
yep,
Like I might
yep,
have combined a couple, like a different events and combine them into one person or one character. So that's also another thing that I did. So I based the characters off of people I knew, but not necessarily the one character was necessarily all, you know, was all one person necessarily, right?
Yeah,
So I kind of
character amalgamation. It's another
exactly.
really good way to do it.
Yeah,
You know, and to be honest, you know, there's one little scene, or probably two little scenes in my book in the first novel that are based off real life events as well. Most of them not. I mean, it's dystopian fantasy, so you know, don't be
right,
too much like
right. But it's
about the
so
real world. But yeah, Discoveries has probably two little scenes in there that are based on real life events, and they're yeah, two of the scenes. One of them's quite funny. One I enjoyed writing because it was a hilarious real life event. The other was a really painful real life event. So it's interesting how they sort of fumbled their way into the novel as well. But it really they actually helped to be able to base them on that. And of course, it's not word for word the same or anything like that. But to
sure,
base them on that was
sure,
really helpful with again reinforcing those values that are important to me.
sure, sure, absolutely. And you know, like I said, so your book is a fantasy book. Is
Yep.
sci-fi too as well?
So it's got some little sci-fi elements. I mean, dystopian kind of fits in sci-fi because it's in the future, but it's also when you know a lot of technology's regressed, and so both of those work together. I can tell you a little bit about the plot.
Yeah,
So
tell us.
it basically revolves around the discovery of chemical element zero, the element of magic, and the idea is that chemical element zero explains some of the weird phenomena that we find in the world. So, for instance, in Australia here, we've got a lake called Lake Hillier that is pink. Look it up on the internet. It is a pink lake. It is quite an extraordinary thing, and there are scientific reasons why it's done that. But instead, I've created this world where no, actually, Magicium, chemical element zero, is responsible for it, and for a lot of those other weird phenomena like the Northern Lights. You know, just you know these magnificent but strange things that go on in our Earth, um, in our world. I've taken that and said it's chemical element zero, and it's the element of magic. And they discovered it, they isolated it, and then they started using it to develop things. And but basically, because we're human and because we tend to do the selfish thing an awful lot, and that's actually a really not a value but a theme that's really important in my novels. Because we tend to do the selfish thing instead of using this wonderful discovery to solve the food crisis or solve the energy crisis or anything like that. We used it in a really irresponsible way and used it to do things like create devices to make life more convenient and to create creatures of mythology that we could use and abuse and enslave and that sort of thing. And so that's kind of the stuff that all happened before the novel. The novel itself is about after that, when the creatures we created rebelled. So we've got dragons in our world. We've got, because of the way this was constructed, we've got dragons, we've got chimeras, we've got cockatrices, we've got goblins, dwarves, we've got the whole deal. And so it's my tagline is, what happens when creation defeats creator? And that's very much what happened. The creation turned on the human creators in a massive and bloody war, and destroyed most of them and drove the remainder underground. And so we're now seeing them at the point where humankind is underground, and we've got three, and then later, as of the second novel, four protagonists who are working together and sometimes separately to try to restore humanity to the open, as they call it, to be able to come back out in the open and restore it. And they've all, of course, got different ways of doing that. Some think we need to fight back. It needs to be about fighting back. Others think, no, let's do it. Let's find a way of negotiating. Let's find a way of negotiating with power, all of that sort of thing. So
With
yeah, that's
great power
basically
comes great responsibility, right?
yeah, and sometimes great irresponsibility,
Right,
sadly.
right. Unfortunately, those, yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
All right.
So yeah, that's the basic story. In the first novel, in Discoveries, we follow Logan, who's a young magus who's still learning to use magic, but he's pretty powerful. Carla, who's a pretty disturbed young woman who's his tutor who can't stand him, and we've also got so that section, it starts in Australia, but it kind of spans the whole globe because they travel all around the world through various means related to Magicium. And then over in Kenya, we've got Junior, who's a kind of a guy approaching middle age who captures these creatures. I call them A-bombs or abominations. So the A-bombs are the mythical creatures, and so his job, he kind of illegally captures them and distributes them to people who might want them, and then he's sent on a quest as well to go and obtain a big container of liquid magicium that could make a huge difference to their ability to return to the open. So that's what the story is all about. I've kind of meandered all over the place then, not given the elevator pitch by any means. But yeah, hopefully that still gives a bit of an idea of what my story is about.
Sure. Yeah, I get it. So is every story or every novel so far, does it have the exact same characters, or one novel has one character, novel two has another one, and so on and so forth? And like maybe by 5 or 6 novels, they all kind of start coming together. I mean, you tell me, you're the author.
Yeah. No, there are actually multiple MCs in each one, multiple main characters in each one. So Logan, Carla, and Junior all appear in the first novel, and then Blessing, a character who kind of goes missing in the first novel due to some interesting circumstances, comes back in the second. I make her an MC because I saw the potential of her character, and yeah, she's got a big role to play as well. So, but each of the novels has kind of the same main characters, except for the first one, unless maybe some of them die. Who knows? I don't want to spoil too much. But
Right. I don't want you to spoil
right.
it. I don't want you to tell why they're not there. I just want to let people know, hey.
But multiple MCs, and so the great thing about it is you can see stories from different perspectives, and it forces me to work hard at character voice and things like that. But it also means you can tell the same event from 2 different perspectives, and can be really interesting. You would have heard that thing probably about how people will witness a car crash, and every single one of them will relate the events differently, and they will have seen something different. And that's part of what I like to capture through these MCs, who sometimes are interacting and sometimes are at disparate ends of the earth. It's
Right.
it's really fun to be able to play around with the dynamics of those characters.
Interesting thing you just said about the accident, how different people will see different things. It's so different
Yeah.
that the little exercise we did in high school, and maybe others might have done it earlier or later, where the first person tells the story and then relays it to the next person, and then the original story compared to the last person they got it relayed it completely different, or almost very different. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Chinese whispers. Yeah, we used to use that. We used to use that in drama. Actually, it was a good activity we used in drama a lot for kind of ice breaking and that sort of thing. It was,
yeah,
but also, yeah, thinking about telling a story and what that means.
yeah, exactly. So tell me, Tom, what which author or authors have inspired you to write?
Yeah, so I would say definitely for me it started with Tolkien. He was just he is the quintessential fantasy author. And look, I don't think I'll ever grow. I know a lot of people grow out of fantasy as they get older and that sort of thing. I don't know that I ever will. Maybe that says more about me than it should. But yeah, Tolkien. I just reread Lord of the Rings. I hadn't read it in probably about 8 or 10 years. I just reread it, and I was still just blown away by the incredible world building, by the way the story just intertwines and intersects and comes together and gives you such a satisfying yet imperfect ending. It's not happily ever after. Any story that ends happily ever after is usually ending in the middle anyway, And so the happily ever after is there to an extent, but there's a bittersweetness to it, and I just loved the way that all came together. And so Tolkien was my first inspiration. I've actually had to work hard to not write quite as formally as that, because a lot of my writing has been critical writing over the years, critical analysis and that sort of thing. And so between that and Tolkien, I had to actually think, okay, how can I make my language a little more accessible for people so they'll actually want to read my books rather than be in this stilted, archaic sort of language. So that's been one of the things I've had to learn and really work at to try to avoid. So yeah, he was number one. But there have been a lot of authors since in different ways have influenced what I've done. There was some stuff about the way the Hunger Games was put together. I really loved the way that she uses each little component to draw together a satisfying conclusion. Just the little hints that she drops throughout. I know that she's in the news sometimes for reasons that for some of her views that are considered controversial. But I still like J.K. Rowling's books. And as an English teacher, it's hard not to, because they got a generation of kids who weren't reading to read, and so that shows there's a real quality in her ability to tell a good story, and I think that being a good storyteller doesn't it doesn't mean that we don't all still have our rough edges or different opinions that can be worked on. Sure. But being a good storyteller is still something we prize and we value, and every culture does. Whether it's oral storytelling or whether it's written storytelling, we all, I think, all cultures value that, and so So Rowling is also an influence from that perspective.
Interesting. I didn't even realize that she wrote the Hunger Games. I mean, I know about the.
Oh no, she didn't. Sorry, Suzanne Collins wrote the Hunger Games. I didn't say Suzanne Collins' name. Sorry, no, she didn't write the Hunger Games at all. That was just me jumping around all over the place, as I tend to do. You can imagine how I write my books, right?
Okay, because I thought I just learned something today. I'm like, I didn't know that.
No. If you did, you would have learned something that was wrong from someone who says he used to be an English teacher. That would be embarrassing.
I bet if you told your students go get the Hunger Games by J.K. Rowling, they couldn't find it, right?
No, that's right. That was Suzanne Collins. Sorry, I should have said Suzanne Collins. No. I thought I mentioned her name, but I obviously didn't. So apologies.
No, I just kept creating. You know what it was? You might have said it at the beginning when you were talking about the Hunger, but then you kept talking about J.K. Rowling after that, and I thought that's who you meant. So
yeah.
I might have misunderstood too.
No problem.
But anyway, so that's interesting you say that. Like, I don't really consider like any specific authors that inspired me. I mean, there are so many authors that stand out for me personally. Like Mark Twain was like definitely an author that I enjoyed his books and the movies that they wrote, based off his books. But I wouldn't say he inspired me to write what I wrote, because he obviously didn't write, romantic novels or comedies. He wrote more, different, literary, different genres.
In that literary tradition, wasn't it?
Yeah. In fact, there was an interesting story about him. Was at the time when he wrote, he was writing in an era when they had these great literary authors, and those guys didn't even want nothing to do with Mark Twain. They were like you're crap. Like you're not really an author. But yeah, he ended up winning all those awards later on, and he was just as good as those guys. And they didn't want nothing to do with him, and he wanted to fit in, but they wouldn't let him. So that's just like, you don't belong in our class.
That's right. That literary snobbery that can be a real problem, I find. It was he used language that reflected a different culture and time.
Sure,
that was his ability to do that in a way that was so authentic is what makes his novels still, people still read them today. People still enjoy them today. And, again, he was still a great storyteller. So,
and that's, the bottom line is storytelling, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Sure, some of the language probably is, you shouldn't have said, we're talking mid to late 1800s here. So, or late 1800s when he was writing, different era, whatever. But, so anyway, so I wouldn't say anyone inspired me or anything like that, but I enjoyed his writings. I like Tom Clancy books, and so on and so forth. But I would just say, not one specific author really inspired for me as an author. I just
fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Now, also, Massimo, one thing I learned about you last week is that you still have a full-time job and a full-time. Was it in finance? Was that?
Yes,
was that
finance.
Right?
In fact, funny you should say that, because a lot of people, when I tell people I wrote a book, they were like, "Oh yeah, what did you write? Some kind of accounting book?" No, I didn't write an accounting book. It's just like, wow, really? You wrote romantic comedy? Like, where's this coming from? Like, they didn't expect, like, like I'm not even your typical pocket protector type of accountant, nerdy accountant with a pencil and all that. You know what I mean? It's just like, yeah, I'm not your even typical. I'm an atypical accounting, finance person, or I have this persona. I just don't fit that mold.
Yeah, yeah, and that's a good thing, though, because
Yeah,
I think that every in every profession, you need people who bring different skills and personalities to the table, and so I
yeah,
think that's a brilliant thing
yeah,
that you're in that. Like I'm a fairly straight laced drama teacher in many respects. Married with three children and
yeah.
three grown up children and all the rest of it. But those different personalities, I think, can be part of what makes a team work and part of what makes a community work. It's
Hmm.
really important. So,
Yep.
would you ever consider going full time, Massimo? Would that ever be an option
A-
for you?
Absolutely. And so far I've only got two books going on,
Yeah,
and I'm just kind of checking things out, and seeing how things go. But yes, I definitely would love to do it full time. I don't know if I would do it full time now or when it's retirement age. Who knows? We'll see.
yeah,
And
yeah,
also, I mean, a lot of things are going to be playing a factor as well. The demand. Because I kind of left the two books. It's a series. Gianni's part of a series. So I did write a third book that I haven't released or finished yet, but that's
yeah,
going to be
yeah, yeah,
based on my mood and how the demand and everything else is going.
yeah,
So, we'll see. We'll see
yeah,
how it goes. I don't. Not only do I enjoy doing the writing, I also enjoy the podcasting and the
yeah,
YouTubing
yeah,
and whatnot. I
mm,
enjoy talking to other authors like yourself. We share a
yeah.
lot of the same experiences in many
Mm.
cases, right? We take our
And it's
own.
such a
Yeah.
lonely business too when you're sitting there in front of your computer for hours. That connection's so important as well. And yeah,
Mhm.
it's one of the reasons that I still engage with social media, even though it does take a bit of time from writing. Is just that's important to talk to other authors, to get to know them, to get to know their process, to think, could that work for me, to change what you're doing, and just to share the experience because you've got I know with most authors, I find I've got more in common than I've got that's not, at least in terms of because we're all writing,
Right.
and it's a very unique skill set. So
Sure. And as far as genres go, I'm not necessarily sold or limited to just romantic comedies. I mean, I
mm,
may write other genres as well. I've got a couple other in the I got a couple. Like literally, I have a bunch of ideas written down already as to what type of books I want to start writing down the road.
yep,
So I've already got like I got a variety of different. I'm not sure typical just you know one type of genre. So yeah.
yep,
So to answer your question, I would love to. And the same token, I would love to do both, like writing and doing YouTubing and podcasting and so on and
yeah,
so forth. Because I think they coincide, right? I mean, I think it's very helpful
yeah,
for other authors as well. Because what I found in my experiences, uh, not enough authors get this platform to be able to discuss as much as they can about. A
yeah,
lot of
yeah,
times you may get maybe 5 minutes, 10 minutes,
mhm,
and boom boom, you got to hit your main points, and boom boom, you got to get people interested. But I think people are just interested in the book. They want to really know about the author. They want to
yeah,
see him. They want to
yeah. The person behind, put a face to
yeah,
the name.
yeah. Put
Mm,
a face to the name, the story behind the name, and then hey, it's very interesting. Maybe his writing is just, or her writing is just as interesting, right? So,
yeah,
that's and I felt like there isn't I mean, and maybe there are, but I'm not familiar. You know what I mean? But like I said, I'd like to make this platform and not just exclusive to writers, but also maybe musicians, who come out with new music and on and so forth. So
yeah,
and like I said, I don't like to like stick to one thing, but at the same token, I don't want to limit myself where I can like bring on. What I want to do is bring entertaining, shows to people so they can watch and be
mm,
entertained. Maybe the favorite authors or celebrity or investor, and all sorts of things.
yeah,
So, but yeah, so yeah, I definitely would love to. And the beauty about writing, and you probably could
Yep.
attest to this, is you could do it anywhere in the world if you want. You could be in the
Yeah,
North
that's
Pole.
right.
You could do it in the
Yep.
North Pole. All you need is a laptop. You
Yep.
know.
Long haul flights are the best. I've done quite a few with moving between UK and Australia and all the rest of it. And yeah, they're brilliant for just getting there and getting several hours where there's nothing to stop you. You just go, bam, get those words down on the page. It's brilliant.
Right. I mean, and
Mm.
hey, you know what? As long as you always have a laptop and an idea pops up, that's what I was doing. I was like, oh
Mm.
my god, I got an idea for another novel. So I got to start writing down my general
Yep.
like. Don't forget. So I literally saved a bunch of files because I want to get back to them later when I got a little more time. But
Yep.
yeah, so definitely I would love to, and hopefully we'll get there. You know, I definitely want to do
Yeah.
that. You,
Let's
you,
hope so. Both be
yeah,
podcasting back and forth and
yeah, absolutely,
sharing
yeah,
our novels. It'll be great.
yeah,
Actually, you did make an interesting point before. You said,
yep.
I'm a financial guy who's doing romantic comedy, and no one expects that. What did inspire like romantic comedy to be the way you went?
Well, to be honest, you know, I don't know if anything specific inspired me, but the genre, that's basically where the story took me. That's how it
Yep.
ended up, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But to what inspired me to write was basically my personal life as a lifelong bachelor, right?
Yep.
So, and you go on dates and women are asking, "Oh my God, you're so good looking, you're so nice, you're this, that. Why have you never been married?" You know, it's like again another. This is surprising. Something must be wrong with you. Red flag, red flag. Something must be wrong with
Well,
this guy. It's like you're like, oh,
yeah.
okay. So just like, you know what? I'm gonna write a book and I'm gonna try to explain to people that yeah, it does happen. That bad luck,
Mm.
happens. You don't meet
Yeah,
the right
yeah.
person. And that's
Mm.
basically what inspired me to write the book. Is just like, I got to write this because people just don't seem to believe me or want to believe me, right? So maybe if
Yeah.
it's in writing, people will start believing me.
But you're right as well. Like there are people out there who don't, who, as you say, are lifelong bachelors or bachelorettes or whatever you call.
Right,
They and sometimes they feel like they can feel like, oh, is there less of me because I'm not with another person? Of course, you're challenging that, and that's a brilliant thing. And so many people are content in that lifestyle as well, and that's also
right,
a
right,
great thing. But there are people who do find the challenge, and
right,
you're speaking to them, and that's another of
right,
the beauties of writing a
right,
novel, isn't it?
right. Exactly. So basically, the main character, Gianni,
Yeah,
wanted just a simple life. Just wanted to be a girl, settle down, married, have a life, kids. That's it. Family. That's uh, the simple plan, right? It's a simple
yep.
plan, but for whatever circumstances that had happened to Johnny and me, right? Right. So whatever happened,
Not that he's entirely you, but we
right,
know.
right, it just seemed to follow the same kind of pattern there. But that's what I was trying to show. It's just like it's not because hey, this guy's a cheater. It's not because this guy is a drug abuser. It's not because he's a gambleaholic or something like you know what I mean. So there's a lot of
Yeah, yeah,
times people do have these red flags. They are like they're gonna put you in the poorhouse because they're gamblers. They're gonna abuse you because they're alcoholics or drug abusers and whatnot. But in this case, this character, that wasn't the case. He just had
yeah,
bad timing, bad, just didn't meet the right person. And
yeah, yeah.
even
Right
though that's
person at
what
the
he
right
wanted.
time.
Right.
Mm,
Exactly. Even though that's what he wanted, it
yeah,
just didn't happen. So yeah, so
yeah.
that's what inspired me basically. It's just like, okay, I gotta write it because no one believes me.
So tell me a little bit about this new one that you're working on then, Massimo. How's that relate to telling Gianni's story without giving too much away, of course?
Well, I so the first two novels are basically so the first novel is basically about Johnny and his journey to settle down, get married, have a family, and the struggles that he had. Right. The second novel I wrote, A Desire for Respect. It's like, where are you? The Desire for Respect.
Has
That's
that
my
cover
second.
changed?
Yeah, that one changed too.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I saw the old cover, I think, on your website.
yeah, the silhouette
Yeah,
one, right?
yeah, yeah.
So, uh, so I wrote the second novel because I could have wrote both novels together, but I felt
Yeah.
like, I feel like if I wrote both of them together, or kept them together, it'd be kind of like a big run-on story. So
Yeah.
I felt like the two stories could be separated because the desire for respect is about basically, and I think a lot of people can relate to this. And in fact, to be honest, I like that story better than the first book, Desire for Love,
Yep.
just because
Yep.
I think more people can relate to it because we all want respect as people, right?
Yeah.
Whether
Yeah.
it's
Absolutely.
personal, family, work, life in general, right? We all want and seek that desire to have that respect from people.
Yeah, for
But
sure.
yeah, but so this second book basically explains uh part of the first book. So I don't want to give away too much, but in the first book, there's a section where he's basically the character is in his twilight years and he's ready to retire and so forth, and he's become very successful, right? So Desire for Respect shows the struggles that he went through to get to that point, right? Because he did struggle to get to where he got to as well. So they kind of
Yeah.
basically, I basically broke down that book and said, hey, this is what happened, Johnny. This is how he got where he got to, and it goes back to a lot of the same time frames as the first book as well. So a lot of the same characters are also in there, and so
Yeah.
on and so
Yeah.
forth, and some new characters obviously as well, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
basically,
As you do. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. There's still a little bit of romantic comedy as well in there as well, but for me, I think it's a more powerful story only because of the fact that this guy, the character Gianni, is down in his luck. He's just like down the bottom of the barrel. He's having the roughest luck anyone could possibly have. Just when you thought things could get worse, they got worse. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I don't show that in Desire for Love. Desire for Love is just basically mainly about him and the struggle with women or relationships, right?
Yeah.
Where this
Yeah.
one is
Yeah.
more about everything, like not just love,
Yeah. Him as a
everything.
person existing and being content with who he is.
Right, exactly. And he's down to the barrel, and he's not giving up, and he's trying to get out of that. Like he's like you couldn't sink any lower, and then he sunk lower, and then he's still trying to dig himself out of the hole that he's in. And that's what I love about the story. It's just like he didn't rely on anyone to dig him out. He dug himself out, and
Yeah.
that's what I was trying to explain about the first book with the second book as to how he got to where he got to. Right, because I don't really. It's just kind of like, hey, he's in his twilight. He's ready to call it a day. He's like, really? What happened? How did he get there? You know what I mean? I don't explain
Yeah.
that in
Yeah.
the first one. So that's what I tried
Mm.
to do. Try to get to that story. And then the third one. So basically, I try to tie the two stories together.
Yep.
Try to tie them together and kind of put the final chapter or final novel into it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's part
Okay.
of the trilogy. Yeah. So that's what I try
Yeah. It'll be a trilogy. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, I try to tie the two together and try to make all one big last final hurrah or whatever.
So is there sort of one theme or idea that you think's coming out most powerfully in connecting it all?
Yeah, yeah,
You don't
and
want to tell us that?
I can't tell it because that might ruin part of the other two books.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. Then I
Yeah,
will not
yeah,
pry any further. But
yeah. I took so much pride in that first book and not my ending that I didn't want. I didn't want to. I didn't want to spoil alert, but let's just say that part of the two books, it's almost like it's a continuation of the two books at the end. It starts from that kind of, and then it kind of goes back. It goes back and forth, and still, I love doing that, going back in time. Like I like flashback.
using the flashbacks. Yes.
Yeah, flashback scene. Why did he get here? Oh, okay, this is what happened. Oh,
Yep.
where'd you come from? Oh, this came from this era. That's what I love doing.
Oh, well-written flashbacks are brilliant. Badly written ones can really affect the flow of a novel, but well-written flashbacks, oh yeah,
yeah,
so
absolutely,
good.
yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what I plan to do. It's going to be in line the same. Once again, it's Gianni's the main character, and he does have another main character that he actually several main characters from the other two novels as well, tied in as well. So
Yeah.
I don't want to give it too much without.
No, that's fine. I won't pry any further. I did have one other question just about all that kind of got prompted by it. So you said before you're actually not quite as satisfied with the first book as the second. And
no, I said I like the second book better.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Sorry. Not to put words in your mouth. Okay. You like the second book better. If you could change one thing about any of your books, what would it be?
If I could do what?
if you could change one thing about either of your novels, what would
Oh,
it be? Any thoughts?
that's a good question. And I'm not. I don't think I would change the characters. I don't think I would change the
Mm,
stories. Maybe there might have been a story or two in Desire for Love that maybe it's not necessary to put that in there.
yeah,
Maybe it wasn't necessary, but I just wanted to point out in like Desire for Love, look how many different things keep happening to this guy. And that was the point I was trying to like hit on. Like, guys, look, I mean,
mm,
he doesn't have, I mean, poor Gianni, he's like a victim. He's a victim because
yeah,
he's a victim. He's a nice guy. He's an attractive guy. And women literally are throwing themselves at him. So I just kept trying to throw examples as to him not initiating anything, and then all of a sudden women are literally. So I don't know if I would change that because I think that kind of throws the humor in it. But it may,
mm,
maybe some people would say, "Oh, God, this is kind of redundant." Not redundant. I mean, it was always something different. But
yeah,
as a token, I think it was important that people understand it didn't matter where he was, who it was. It just kept happening. Whether he was
yeah,
with,
yeah,
whether he was with, whether someone might approach him in a restaurant, like the waitress might say something to him. He might be with his girlfriend, and she might say something, and that might throw up like all kinds of crazy events after that, like jealousy
yeah,
and all this. It's like he didn't do anything wrong. He had nothing to do with that person, and yet he was a victim. And like I said, it just kept happening to this character, and
yeah,
then
yeah, yeah,
kind of hit on. It's just like the poor guy. It's like
yeah.
even when he's not doing anything wrong, something wrong goes. Something goes wrong for him.
Yeah. I
So
feel sorry for Giardi. It sounds,
yeah, poor guy, he's a
sounds like the
victim.
whole world's outside his control.
Yeah, he's
Because,
a total victim.
there's a reality to that sometimes too.
Right. But yeah, I mean, like I said, I don't think I would change anything as far as that goes. I mean, like I said, maybe one or two less stories or anything,
Yeah.
and Desire for Love. But I think no, I don't think I would change anything because I did really like the fact that I was kind of in my books. I always was referencing music.
Yeah.
My character and myself personally always related a lot of stuff to music, like an era. So like I hear a
Mm,
song, I'm gonna remember a story. Oh my God,
yeah.
I remember that song was playing when I was out with so and this was going on, and
Yeah.
like all these things happened, and I felt like and in fact it's kind of interesting because my nephew was reading my book, and he's like 18, 19 years old, and he read the book. He goes, I never heard all these songs. Like this kid was, he was like I said, this is recently, so he's like
Yeah.
17, 18, 19 years old. He never heard these songs that I was quoting in the book. Like, yeah, I'm hoping people might look them up. That's why I said, hey, this song is from so and so. That title,
Mm,
maybe you might want to listen to it, but you know what I mean. So I don't
yeah.
regret that. I think that was part of the whole thing because like when he was in trouble, sometimes you want to listen to a song and just think of that song to try to like ease the pain somewhat somehow. You know.
That's a powerful observation too, the nostalgia of music. And for some people that's just going to resonate. Even if their memory of the song is different, it's still going to be, yeah, that human experience of I associate that song with that moment, that
Mm-hmm.
important moment is such a powerful motif, I suppose you'd call it, to be weaving into your story. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's a
It,
great idea. I love it.
yeah. And I love the fact that I wanted to make sure that people understood the era, like
Yeah.
prior to cell phones, right?
Yes.
Right. I
Mm.
mean, like people don't understand how people used to meet or prior to cell phones or
Yeah, yeah,
social
yeah.
media. There was no social media. I mean, you literally met people in person in school or wherever you worked or whatever. That's how you met people, or like on a train or a bus or something. You didn't meet people, through apps, dating apps, or social media,
Yeah.
Facebook or whatever. I know Facebook is also very popular for people meeting, but what I mean, we didn't have that. So
No, we did, and that's you used a phone for calling. That's
right.
what
That's all it was good. And you didn't have the phone on you back in the
that's
early
right. You couldn't
80s.
walk around everywhere if
No,
you
it was a
walked
brick.
further than the cord went.
There was no cordless. I mean, when I remember when they first brought out the cordless phones, like
Yeah,
the
yeah,
house cordless phones, it's like,
yeah. The
oh my God.
'90s.
Yeah, yeah, right. It's
Yeah,
like, oh my God, the wet cord. We can walk around anywhere in the house with it, right? I mean, that was
yeah,
cool, but I mean, but otherwise, yeah. I mean, it's like
We're not
like,
that old, people. We're not that old. Don't
no, we're
believe it.
not. No, we're not old. We just lived in a better. I don't know. I think it was a great era, but no, it's funny because when I talk to the kids, we talk about, speaking of, like retro, but like sometimes we would talk about things like, like they get rides from their parents everywhere they go. I used to have to catch a bus or walk or bike or
Hmm.
something, and then it would say, well, how did
Yep.
you get somewhere? Well, it wasn't my dad or my mom. They didn't drive me around. I had to
That's
literally
right.
figure out a ride. I had to get there, right? So, and then, what about meeting people if you didn't have a cell phone or text message? I'm like, no, we all said,
We went
what
out
time?
outside our four walls.
You're literally today or whatever day at that time, be there, right? And
Mm.
you had to be there. So if you're going to meet somebody, you had to be there at a certain hour or they'd move on, right?
Yeah, that's right. That's
So,
right.
so you had to be prompt,
Yeah, yeah. FOMO wasn't a thing for us, that's for sure.
No, so yeah, so what? I still think it was a fun era. I don't,
Mm.
despite our
Look, yeah. There
yeah.
was so much I loved about growing up in that era as well. So I
Yeah.
hear you. I do.
So let me ask you about back to your books. I mean,
Sure thing. Yeah.
yeah, you said you were about to finish up another draft. After you finish that, do you see yourself? You said you're writing full time now.
Yep.
Are you going to be in? I don't want to give away too much, but are you going to continue writing more of the same series, or are you going to create a whole new series?
Yeah. That's a great question. This book has been my most challenging to write because the first five books kind of end on a good note. You could probably end the series, even though it hasn't resolved everything. You can go, that's not a bad spot. So I kind of treat that as the first series within a bigger world, if you like. And so this sixth book, it's been starting over, and that's been a real challenge because I haven't had a dream this time wake me up and say, "Here's the way you got to go." So, so I've had to kind of construct it a little more from scratch. But there was lots of great stuff and some great threads that were there that I could develop as well. But because this one's been a bit of a challenge, I'm actually thinking I might. I've got another idea on the back burner that I've kind of written about half a novel for. It's more of a YA novel, and I'm not going to share too much about it in case it never sees the light of day. But yeah, I think that I'm going to go back to that next, just to have a little bit of a break from this series, just to refresh. Write a novel in this YA series that I've got in mind, get that
Mm-hmm.
out there, and
Mm-hmm.
then launch back into Magicium because I think that just having that little break might be good for recharging the batteries and refreshing. And it's
Sure.
fun. It's fun to play in other worlds as well. Like one of the things, even though I'm writing full time, one of the things I'm writing for is a computer game company, a company called Astronova, who are creating a fantasy sci-fi kind of hybrid computer game. And so I'm doing a lot of the lore and backstory of that. It's so much fun to play in their world. It's just something different, this world that other people have created that I can then create these stories for and create these threads for. It's really fun. And so to be able to do to be able to play in a different world can sometimes be just what you need to sort of refresh, recharge, and be ready to take on the next challenge.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
Mm.
sounds interesting. So, uh, if someone is interested in buying your series, all your wonderful books, can
Which
you let?
everyone is, of
Yeah,
course.
I mean,
I can't hear
obviously,
those
obviously.
voices.
Well, hold on. Obviously, I'm gonna put the links in the YouTube description so everyone can
Yep.
click it and go buy it.
Mm.
However, at the same token, I want people to subscribe and like this video because I think Tom really you did a great job with this video. Uh,
Thanks,
so
Massimo.
why don't you tell everyone where to find it if they can't click it right now?
All right, cool. So there are three main ways that you can get it. One is on Amazon, where everyone is. The Mighty's on. So you can order the whole series there. You can get it in paperback. You can get it in ebook as well. Hardcover is coming, but just had a little bit. I've had a little bit of an issue with my designer, but it will come. I'll have that done fairly soon. Amazon's the first place. Second thing you can do is sign up to my mailing list through my website, and you can contact me directly. and I'll give you a free book if you sign up through my website. So it's a free novella that kind of introduces you to my series. So that's a no risk way where you can just get the book, have a read of it, and decide, hey, could this series be for me? And you get it for free. There's no strings attached except giving me your email address, and I'll kind of contact you once a month just to let you know what's going on in my world. So that's the second way, and I'm happy to send out signed hardcovers or signed copies and all that sort of thing if you're interested. The third way is I'm actually appearing at it's kind of like a Comic-Con at Supernova in Sydney. So any Australian viewers, I'm sure you've got heaps of them, Massimo, but you'll probably have a few more once I share the link for this.
Yep.
But any Australian viewers who'd like to meet the author, because apparently, Massimo, people are amazed when they meet an author. We're celebrities. So
yeah, I mean, some are.
Yeah,
I mean,
so if you want to meet me, I will be at Supernova in Sydney on the 17th and 18th of June, so just next month. And yeah, I would love to see you there. Have copies of my novel. I have my signing pen ready. But also, you can chat to me and find out anything that Massimo and I didn't think to ask today.
Yeah. Oh, what was the website address? I don't think I caught that.
Oh, sorry, my website. So my website is tnbaldwin.com. T for Tom, N for Neil, which is my middle name, which you can remember because I'm short, and so it's like I'm kneeling. So tnbaldwin.com, and I imagine, Massimo, you put that down in the links as well. That
every link you want to share, I'm gonna share with the rest of the viewers on the platforms, and I want to actually let everybody know, not only am I going to be on YouTube, but the video will also be on Rumble as well.
Yeah, okay,
so I'm
brilliant.
Reaching out to more people. So yeah, I mean, you are coming on at a time with this channel and MPP Power Hours of getting ready to explode. So your timing is perfect. Tom, it's been a great pleasure. Thank you again for having me here today, being on my show today. I appreciate it.
It's been absolute privilege. I can't believe we've been at it for an hour already, Massimo.
I know time flies when you're having fun. Time flies when you're having fun. So that's what I always say. But anyway, how do you say it in Australia? Good day, mate.
G'day, mate.
Fair day, mate. All right. Talk later. Thank you so much.
Take care, copper.
All right. Bye-bye.
See ya.
So, if you are connected on my social media sites, contact me directly to make an appearance on the MPP Power Hour. Hurry while there are still spots available. Don't forget to smack those buttons to subscribe and like my video. Thank you for watching.